Hi everyone and welcome back to this tutorial. As you remember on our last lesson we started working on our background by adding and adjusting different images, and on this video we'll finish editing our background and we'll start adding different textures to our project. So let's start by finish to edit this area over here of the underwater part. We end up by adding this layer of light reflections, and now what we're gonna do is just blur a little bit this line over here of the edge of these light beams. So for that we can use our erase tool. We put a lower opacity on it and we start erasing this edge so it's blurred out. Now we are going to create a new layer, a second light reflection layer, but let's call this one light beams. And this layer we're gonna do a similar procedure as we did for the light reflections, but now instead of drawing a line we're mostly gonna draw dots. We're going to make these dots of different sizes, and also we're going to leave some spaces between them, so it will help to give the impression that the light is passing through the water surface, and it's because of the ripple of the waves that sometimes the light does not pass completely through the water. Another thing to say is that we have chosen a soft brush type that let us draw these dots with a blur edge, so when we add the filters and make the adjustments, our light beams will look more smooth. So let's just finish putting some more dots here. Okay, now we're going to use again the radial blur filter. Soon meta best quality, and we're moving up to 50. Okay, now with our free transform tool we're going to position these light beams and also distort them a little bit. So we're there, enter. Now to add more depth to this area over here, we're going to create a new layer and we're going to use our gradient tool. We are going to create a black and white gradient. Let's select the pixels and okay, and now we're going to change its blending mode from normal to luminosity and its opacity to 50%. We're going to add more shadows to it to also make it seems more deeper, and it will help us frame more this area as well as the whole final render. So let us change the opacity of the brush tool. As you can see, this has helped out to pop out more the light reflection and light beams we drew before. And finally what we're gonna do is to make more defined the edge of the water surface. So we are going to draw a light and a dark line just to make it more clear and more defined. So first this is going to be called gradient, then the second one is going to be bright line, and we're going to just draw a very thin line on the surface. This line we are drawing now will help to show that we're cutting as well through the water. It's the same as we did with the building and the land, But here, instead of using a black color, we are using a white color to give a different materiality to the water. As well, it will help to differentiate where the surface ends and where the underwater part starts. So we just need to finish drawing that line all the way to the left side of the image. Just this last part. Okay. Now a new layer for a dark line. We're going to pick one of these dark colors at the bottom, and we're gonna do the same. The reason we are drawing this second line in this dark color is most of all to give more contrast and to make the white line stand up more clearly. It will also help to remark more where we are cutting through the water surface. Another thing is that we are not drawing these lines, both the white and this dark line, with a precise thickness or a precise distance from the surface, is to give the image a little bit of movement, to give the impression that there are some sort of waves on the water surface. So we just have to finish drawing it all the way to this left side. Okay. Finally, what we're gonna do with this couple of layers is to blur them using a Gaussian blur filter. At this point, both lines look a little bit strong, so we want to make them more smoother and to blend more with the image. We're making more blur to the dark line than to the bright line, but also we're going to change the opacity of them. Lower down this opacity value to, let's say, 20%. Okay. Now we're going to add some textures, and we're going to use this image over here for the texture of the walls. So we're going to select and copy, and we're going to create a new layer called concrete. And on this layer, we're going to paste the image we had before. Now, what I want to do is turn off all the layers but the base drawing and the white background drawing. So we're going to scale down this image. Also, we're going to cut the edges of the image. So we select inverse and cut them off. And we're going to transform this image and scale it to a size that we can use, and then we're going to copy it several times to form a pattern that we are going to paste all along our project. As you can see, I'm using the door as a reference to scale down the models of the concrete. Now what I'm going to do is duplicate the image on top and on the bottom, and I'm going to merge these three layers, rename it, and I'm going to duplicate again these patterns, and I'm going to transform these layers and make it more bigger. And duplicate it one more time so we can have the textures on the lower level. Okay, now we're going to merge these layers. and we're going to cut out the parts where we don't want the texture. So we select the base drawing, click outside of it. As well, we're going to make our own selection with the mark tool. Okay, and now we erase that areas. Okay. Now we can let the fill color layers stay off. We don't longer need them, but we can turn on the other layers. On our next video, we will finish adding the textures to all the elements of our building, and also we will start adding some light effects to the interiors. So thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for our next lesson.